Our news crews undergo safety training from the authorities, which has allowed us to get this far at this time. But tonight, for so many residents, they are still waiting in evacuation centres with no idea really if everything is gone. Angie Asimus reports on the coastal retreat, now home to streets of devastation.
With backyards ablaze, locals are told it's now too late to leave. Their only choice is to stay and defend.
Fighting fires. This one's a bit close to home.
These three mates saved countless homes, their own, their neighbours, in what they say was one hell of a night.
Frightening. Just didn't know what was going to happen.
But the fire was faster than anyone fighting it.
Which is good.
Things like knowing so many people that have lost their homes.
People like Yvette Jory. She was allowed to return home this afternoon, except home is no longer there.
I thought there'd be a bit more, actually. I was hoping to maybe get a couple of things, but it's pretty much gone.
There was just no time, no warning. Bad reception in the area meant most people failed to get this text message alert as the fire approached.
And the police come and knocked on the door and said, "We want you to leave now." That was it.
We'll certainly look into that.
This blaze was so fierce that here there's not even a trace of what makes a house a home. No remnants of furniture or personal belongings, just bricks, metal and ash. But just next door, Bronwyn Morris embraces firefighters out of sheer relief. Her home is still standing.
So many houses in our street that have gone and it's just heartbreaking.
Elaine and Anne were staying at the local caravan park when they were suddenly told to run.
It was just horrendous because the wind and the heat.
Like so many, they were forced to spend the night here, a makeshift evacuation centre in Bega. But they know they're fortunate.
We've got a home to go to, so we're all right. Yeah. But it's the people here that I see with little children and lost everything. Very sad.
It's heartbreaking.
For the state's Transport Minister, this fire is personal. He's also the area's local MP.
It's pretty heartbreaking. We've got people who are here in town with us not knowing what the state of play is with their home, with their livelihood.
And they may not know for some time. This emergency isn't over.
There's still a fair bit of work to do to bring this fire under control and call it contained.
Only then will we know the full extent of the damage, the number of victims and all of the lucky escapes.
Let's go live to Angie Asimus now. Angie, some more residents have now arrived to survey this terrible damage.
That's right, Mark. One resident has just returned home to the property behind me in the last few minutes to have a look at the damage. Mark Dowdall bought this property with his wife recently and they had planned to move in together in the future. So seeing it like this was incredibly upsetting.
Pretty sad, but yeah, it's sad for everyone. We got insurance, so it's got to rebuild it. Yeah.
And you will rebuild it?
Yeah. One day. It mightn't be soon, but one day.
And Mark, it could be several days before other residents are allowed to come back in here. Fireys are very, very concerned about the safety aspects. They hope to have the fire under control within 24 hours, but that doesn't mean it is in the clear for all residents to return here. They're worried about asbestos, sewerage and fallen power lines, all of which will take some time to fix. Mark?
Yeah, things we've got to look out for here, Angie. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we are coming from Wildlife Drive in Tathra this evening, and this certainly is one of the worst affected streets in this very affected town. And what strikes you when you're here is that at times it's just a matter of centimetres dividing heartache from relief. Those who have lost their homes to those who have got everything when they come back into their streets. A short time ago, I spoke to the Rural Fire Services Commissioner and I asked him how this battle was waged. Despite the desperate efforts of its volunteers, the Rural Fire Service is being slammed for refusing an early offer of help from urban brigades. The Fire Brigade Employees Union claims there's a dangerous turf war between the two. Angie Asimus reports on the blame game sparked by the Tathra disaster.
Despite the devastation, Tathra is being called a victory. No lives lost, 400 homes saved. A win for the Rural Fire Service.
They might be volunteers, but they are real professionals.
And for Fire and Rescue New South Wales.
They were just brilliant. It was like the cavalry coming in.
But now, explosive claims of a turf war. The RFS accused of refusing help from urban brigades. Here's what happened. About 12:30, the fire starts in Reedy Swamp. 4 minutes later, Fire and Rescue offers help but is declined. At 3:37, an emergency as the fire jumps the Bega River. And at 3:40, after 3 hours, the RFS calls for help. But by 4, homes are burning. More than 100 lost or damaged after at least 50 000 calls. The Fire Brigade Union claims the Rural Service is partly to blame.
It's not a new situation. It's been going for 4 decades, this turf war between Fire Rescue and RFS, and it needs to stop.
Privately, the RFS is furious. Publicly, it says city fire trucks are no good on bush tracks.
We had already 5 brigades in attendance. They were the ones dealing with that fire. That unit could not help.
But as soon as the fire reached streets and houses,
it was asked for and it was used.
But speaking with residents here, it's hard to find anyone who'll criticise the RFS. Far from being a distant organisation, those firefighters are locals, friends and neighbours. Some even lost their own homes while trying desperately to save others.
And they've gone to other people to help them, and I'll be forever grateful for what they've done.
Former Major General Jim Molan says no one tried harder.
The brilliance of what happened on Sunday was they saved 398 houses.
Another criticism is an alleged lack of hazard reduction.
It's been a ticking time bomb for years, I'd say for at least 15 years.
And the progressive failure of SMS alerts.
We've been asking for reception to be improved ever since we moved here, which was 2010. It's appalling.
But 15 mobile phone towers were knocked out, and that just couldn't be helped. Now, this is not the first time this issue has reared up. Although the RFS and Fire and Rescue are both state agencies, each vehemently protects its own turf, and one is not supposed to encroach on the other without an invitation. But, of course, when your home is burning, frankly, no one cares who fights the fire as long as someone puts it out. Mark.
Yeah, very true. Angie Asimus in Tathra, thank you. Former Federal Police Commissioner Mick Kelty will lead an inquiry into the Tathra bushfire, investigating claims a turf war between the Rural Fire Service and Fire and Rescue New South Wales put homes at risk. But residents finally seeing the devastation for themselves today say everyone who battled the blaze is a hero.
The road into Tathra finally open. But what they found at the end was grim.
So tragic.
Paul Cowan is one resident who's got nothing left. Even seeing didn't help him believe.
So it'll be a very long process, but I think the community's already pulled together and we'll be all okay.
For those who had a home to return to, what a sight it was.
You're my favourite boy, aren't you?
Before today, these two were strangers, but John Plum saved Norm Johansson's property on Sunday with a hose. And today, Norm got to say thank you.
Everything is here, all thanks to John.
But John says he's no hero.
It's Australians helping Australians and Tathra people helping Tathra.
An inquiry headed by Mick Kelty will investigate if more could have been done to save homes after claims of a turf war between the RFS and Fire and Rescue New South Wales.
I am disgusted by this union bastardry that has occurred at a time when people are distressed.
A coronial inquest will look at what improvements could have been made to the response, including whether there's merit to a merger between the two agencies, something volunteers on the ground don't think would have made a difference.
No doubt they think they probably could have done a good job from the comfort of their recliner and with a cup of tea and a remote control in their hand, but nobody saw that coming.
And most residents believe everyone just did their best. Angie Asimus, 7 News.